we have some time for Q&A. That's the next slide. So when I met Kate, I was like, oh, you're just so friendly and so kind and so sweet. How do you make all this like really messed up artwork? You're like, yeah, I'm gonna do the artwork for Jeffrey Dahmer's show. Like, what's that about? How does, like, tell me a little more about that.
Sure. Thank you for that. Yeah, I probably could have talked a little bit more about my artwork. You know, I saw the email go out, and it was very dark posters that I've done for Hereditary and Jeffrey Dahmer and many, many more. That's not part of my ritualistic practice, I promise. It's all done in like light and, you know, goodness. But I've lived with like, so I struggle with sleep paralysis really bad. I don't know if anyone else here has that, but I have like hallucinations and stuff. And so that has always made me feel like I kind of live with, to be truthful, like a darkness. I've seen some like very dark things in my evenings of slumber. And it allows me to tap into that when I work on much darker films. And the dark films are my favorite to work on. I think we're fooling ourselves if we think that not all of us have something inside that you could tap into if you really wanted to like understand this other side of life, really. Yeah.
Since you've done kind of like a spiritual journey, I was just curious if you knew your human design. If you knew your human design at all.
That's all right.
Human design, is that like the reflector? Yes, that's what I am. I'm a reflector. I guess if anyone knows what that means, it's you kind of are a mirror to everyone else around you, maybe, which I think actually probably helps in design because I feel like I can shape shift a bit. I can empathize and tap into maybe like the darker stuff, but also like the really bright, fun, like I can work on a Marvel movie and it's like a super good time and I'll pretend I'm a superhero. I can really like shape shift a bit. So that's probably where the reflector part comes in.
Yeah, I've got a question about the color, the tone of your artwork, and how that is connected with your moods and where you are in your life.
It's funny, I look over there and it's almost like I never noticed it was a skull before you just asked that question. Yeah, I think, you know, maybe going back to even when I said earlier about like living with like a darkness it's almost like I think I'm fooling myself or we're fooling ourselves if we think that both things aren't existing always at the same time. It's almost like if I were to paint something that feels really happy, there's a moment of that, but it feels way more serious if there's also juxtaposed at the same time a bit of reality. And I'm noticing like in this next phase of painting, it's a lot of like half the canvas is black and half of it's white, and then there's something on top of it. And it's just like an intuitive thing of like, just so you know, I know it's not all perfect, you know, there's a little bit of everything in it.
What brought you back to the Twin Cities?
So my family. I will say, I never thought I was gonna move back from California. I moved out there, I lived out there for 5.5 years. I told my family I was gonna be out there for 2 years. 2 years came and went, and I was like, I'm here forever, I just know that I am. And it was hard, but I didn't even like miss home really. I was thriving there and I loved it. And it was right before the pandemic, before anyone talked about COVID. A few weeks prior, I went to bed and everything was fine, and I woke up and it was like a veil lifted of like all of a sudden a reality of like, I'm so far away from home. Like I moved so far away. I have this tremendous family that I just gave up to like pursue something, and it just shook me to my core. It was the first time in my life that I felt really homesick, and I tried to make it through the pandemic, gave it like 9 months, and I moved home, and it was the greatest decision I ever made because I still work full-time in California. I was just there this last week. So, and now with remote working, I can work from Minnesota and I still have my team out there and I can dip in and out, but I get to have family and like kind of build this next chapter of life in Minnesota.
Aside from the ritual, do you have an intentionality to your meditation practice? Is there something that you either consciously or subconsciously strive for or seek or think of or concentrate on?
So it probably is a little bit different every day. Some days you're just like, I just need to get there. I just need to sit down, and you have all these racing thoughts, you have deadlines, you have family stuff going on. So sometimes the goal is just to show up, and at the end of it, you can still say like, I did it, I took the time for myself, and that's a win. And that might be the only win for the day. And then other days, it's like, okay, I'm feeling really good. Maybe I'll do an hour of meditation, and it's like a few different things. I do guided meditations on YouTube. I can't just sit in silence very well. And sometimes it might be, I really want to connect to something much higher, something that I can feel in my body. If I can like end a meditation and like actually feel high in some way, in like a very natural way, then that's like a huge success. And you see like pretty miraculous things happen in life when you start opening yourself up to those things. Like I just like find beauty in things that I didn't before. So it's like so cliche, but like the cup of coffee that you're drinking, you just like, you learn to be grateful for such smaller things. So sometimes that's the only goal with meditation for me.
As you were creating kind of this new ritual, can you talk a little bit about like the learning curve of like maybe not knowing exactly what you were doing, but being interested in kind of finding something new?
Yeah, so at first, like I've done meditation many times in my life. I've gone through things. And like I said earlier, it was all like with a goal or like a goal attached to it. It's like, oh, if I meditate, I will be successful, which is kind of like what like social media teaches you. So I decided to not have any of that and be very open to it. And I actually started by, I have a friend that is a energy healer, and she's given me many tarot decks over the years. And again, I would pull a tarot card to see like, you know, when the next big thing's coming, and use it for all the wrong reasons. And so I started using a tarot deck to like get me out of the same obsessive thinking that I have, the same like controlled thinking, where it's like, I'll pull a card and be like, okay, think about it in this way today, like whether it's work or a family thing, like adhere to the card and see what happens. And so I got really inquisitive with tarot. I don't know how to like actually do tarot, but I've used it as a way to like get out of my own thinking. And then just by that, it's like I'd write it all down, I'd research it, and then that brought me to learning about like spirituality. And I have like some very interesting things that have happened to me. I'm not a psychic or medium in any way, but like I have seen like ghosts and stuff. And so I almost like can't help but like see something else. And so because of that, it was like, why don't I lean into it and stop being so scared of it? And I started like I think mentioned before, researching just old spiritual practices and like what they would find, and I found a lot of information there, and I used that to like guide myself moving forward. And I mean, there's so much to learn. I don't know anything, but it's been way better for me, and it makes me live a way more enriched life.
Hello there. You mentioned exploring these old magical stories that have helped humans deal with the unfortunate reality of life sometimes, and opening yourself up to the magic of something that is higher than you. These stories are also quite religious sometimes, and religion can be considered very ritualistic and spiritual. So have you, given that state, have you perhaps even considered also opening up yourself to religion or exploring that as a path to your rituals or spiritual practice?
Great question. Yeah, my mom is Catholic, my dad is Lutheran, and I was raised Lutheran. I think from a very young age, I've always been like, I remember being in confirmation, and we were in Florida on a field trip, and we're all sitting around the pool, and everyone's talking about God, and I was like, had to be the one that was like, what if he doesn't exist? Like, I have to be the person that's like, hold on. And she had told me, well, wouldn't you want to live a life? Isn't a life way more fun believing that something else exists? So I do believe in something, and I am interested in religion. But through like research and reading, it's actually brought me to the book A Hero with a Thousand Faces, which draws parallels between religion, mythology through many different cultures. And it's kind of like made me believe what I've always felt, which is these stories are the same stories that are told all over the world, and the vessel that it's told in is like a religion from a certain time or place. So while I would love to like explore religion, and like maybe when I have a family someday, it's a nice container to like start opening up your kids' mind or your own mind. It's community. But for me, it's like, it's opened my mind to like learning about so many different religions. Like, I feel like it's all valid. It's all pointing us to the same direction.
Great job.